How's the fire?
They're doing well.
Sure, this person.
I haven't heard from you or anything before.
Don't seem to stall.
Yeah.
All right, for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order and begin the meeting with determining the quorum. We will call here. Councilor Baumgartner is observing and participating, but not officially present. Councilor Evers here. Ferguson is absent. I am here and Patterns
Here.
We do have a quorum. We'll call the meeting to order. This is the time of the meeting here where we'll enter into the public forum process. It's a time where members of the public can address council. When addressing council, please provide your name for the meeting record. Speaking times are limited to 3 minutes. If more discovery needs to be done, we'll take the conversation and move it on to staff or appropriate committees and continue the conversation there. So now's the time. If anybody from the public wants to come forward and engage in the public forum, we invite you to do so.
Nobody registered virtually.
Anybody here? Okay, no participants. Will close down the public forum and reopen the regular meeting with the approval of tonight's agenda. We've all been supplied the agenda here. I think Thursday afternoon we got it. Called for first of all, is there anything from the consent agenda that needs to be pulled out or any additions to discussion items? Call for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So, second.
Motion's been made by Patterns, seconded by Evers to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Agenda's been approved. We'll move down to the consent agenda here. It includes the meeting minutes from September 16th. Resolution 99, the calling for a public hearing for the final assessments for unpaid refuse fees. Resolution 100, accepting a donation from the Kiwanis and the Lions. Generous contributions from those organizations for the movie in the park coming up this Saturday. Resolution 101, a step movement for Susie Lang. 102, step movement for Christy Wiedemann. 103, step movement for Jasmine Miller. Resolution 104, the authorization of employment to Leah Peterson as full-time admin assistant. Resolution 105, authorizing employment to Abaya Jimenez, Kelly Stock, and Ryan Sondrel as part-time liquor store clerks. Resolution 106, authorizing and directing the city admin to execute and deliver LMC liability coverage waiver form whereby the city does not waive the monetary limits on municipal tort liability established by Minnesota statutes 466.04. SEH professional engineering service contract for the active living trail phase 2, construction materials testing services for that stage 2 plan proposal by Brown Intertech, electric department purchase order, fire truck pump repair, naming rights policy on parks and other municipal establishments, and then September disbursements. Call for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So. Second.
Motion's been made by Evers, seconded by Patterns to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, consent agenda carries as written. We're gonna move down into discussion items. We have Justin here. Jason here, Jason Murray here to talk to us about setting a public hearing on the approval of tax abatement for the community pool project. Thank you.
And this is a public hearing.
Yeah. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Sorry, I couldn't be here last month when you set this hearing. But this hearing is is to disclose the potential borrowing for the pool. Basically, we're using the tax abatement authority, pledging property taxes from existing city properties towards the payment of this debt. No ill will come to those parcels. It's spread, this debt service levy is spread just like any others. It's just we're using it to meet the borrowing authority. The public hearing tonight is to consider 33 parcels. Last month, most of the questions I always get is in last month's correspondence, I tried to answer a couple questions for you, specifically why residential. It's mainly to avoid any conflict with commercial and your economic development activities. If I was going to put the commercial corridor in this abatement and a couple of businesses wanted to use TIF or tax abatement to support its own project, we'd be in conflict. So I generally always use residential to avoid any economic development conflicts. And then second, why this neighborhood is just easier from an administrative standpoint to keep parcels together, because we have to track these moving forward. And if there's any other future abatements, we don't want to duplicate parcels in that abatement. So I generally try and look at neighborhoods and try and keep it together rather than sporadic throughout the city and that. So with that, Mayor and Council, after the public hearing tonight, if Council wishes to move forward, we will sell the debt potentially October 21st that week and have the mayor and administrator sign off on it, and with ratification at your first meeting in November. The sale is proposed to be with D.A. Davidson, a direct negotiated sale with that underwriter and for that week. So we will try and have that sale done that week of the 21st and back to you with ratification at your November meeting. So, and then potentially close 2 weeks later. So at that point in time, the city can provide the funds towards the pool project. Any questions on the process, procedure, anything like that, Mayor and Council? Perfect. I'll step back and allow any testimony.
Okay.
I had one
Yeah,
question. I apologize.
Yeah.
So you said you're gonna sell the debt on the 21st and it'll be available in about 2 weeks, is that right?
Correct. We'll ratify it. We'll sell that week, and once we have the formal sale, Matt, we'll ask that the mayor and administrator accept the bond purchase agreement, which locks it in, and then the council will ratify at their next council meeting on November 11th.
Okay. And
Or sorry, I said November.
First November meeting.
First November meeting, sorry.
okay. And then Elizabeth, do we know when we're gonna put the money to use? That been set yet?
The school has requested the funds for the pool project in November. I can get a better project timeline from the school. I've requested one, I haven't yet received one. But I can try to have one by our next October meeting to give everybody an update.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Yep.
All right, now is the time where we can receive public comment regarding the approval of the tax abatement for the community pool project. Does anybody from the public wish to address the tax abatement portion of the community pool project? Yeah, sure, yeah.
Ross Elkins from North County Register. Just playing a little catch up here, 33 parcels were mentioned to be a part of this tax abatement. Can you specify which 33 parcels and why only 33 parcels and why not all residents were assessed for this?
I can take that, Mayor and Council. Basically, we have to, with tax abatement, we have to pledge on an annual basis the principal portion of the bond. The number of basically city property taxes per parcel. If this bond, I don't have the bond schedule right in front of me, but the preliminary one, let me see if I got these my notes here, sorry, Ross, let me just check it real quick. The annual, roughly about 76,000 per year, so we just basically had to have enough taxes, city property taxes from these parcels pledged towards this debt on an annual basis. So we're doing that just to meet the statutory requirement. We can use tax abatement for the construction of it. It's used for economic development. We can provide to provide access for services for residents, to help provide and acquire construct public facilities, redevelopment of blighted areas, finance public improvements, public infrastructure. So we're using this tax abatement from the standpoint of providing for the pool and rec. Basically from the public, being able to build a public facility.
Okay, and how was it determined that you settled on the neighborhood that you did, just for the record?
Just for easy, it was all it started, it was an easy residential area to identify. And basically I just start, once I hit the principal portion of the bond on an annual basis, those are the properties that are targeted towards the proposed payment. Again, no ill will, it's not like a special assessment, they're just identified on paper from the city portion of the property taxes.
Alright, thank you.
Basically, you had to come up with $76,000. To identify the right properties to
Yeah.
fit that puzzle piece.
Yeah, I think that 70,000, 76,000 figures in interest also, so there was roughly, if I remember right off the top of my head, it was about 50,000. 45,000 a year, if I remember right, from that we had to accumulate to get the principal portion of the loan.
Feel clear?
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
any other comment from the public? All right, we will close the public comment section of the hearing, reopen the regular meeting. And call for a motion to direct staff to move forward with the tax abatement resolution.
Mayor and council, I will have a formal resolution for you at the November meeting when we ratify the bond, so. Tonight, it's more so just the public hearing, and then we will essentially ratify the bond and then also ratify the abatement together and at that meeting if council's comfortable with that.
Call for a motion to direct staff to move forward with the abatement process.
No, we leave it on, it's just public hearing. Yeah, it's just a public hearing, we don't need to make a motion.
Okay. All right, we'll move, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, council.
All right, we'll move to the tree replacement reimbursement policy conversation here. So obviously, we've had to take out a number of ash trees throughout town due to illness affecting those specific trees. We've come up with a policy on how we can replant, I guess. We are considering a $100 rebate on trees planted. There are a number of portions of that process that homeowners or landowners need to satisfy in order to get that $1,000. It has to be
$100.
$100, pardon me. It has to be photographed. Elizabeth can buy this.
Yeah, so this tree replacement reimbursement policy was discussed with myself, our finance director of public works, as a way to identify the hundreds of ash trees that we have throughout the city and how best to replace the trees that will need to be cut down. We also discussed this at length with the Parks and Recreation Committee because they have a huge interest in green spaces throughout the city. And one of the things we wanted to solve is a issue of ownership of trees. We have a number of trees planted in the boulevard, which are indeed city trees, but residents like to think that that tree is their own. And it creates a lot of confusion in the process to kind of marking out a boulevard and saying, actually, this is a city tree, we get to cut it down. And then the other thing we wanted to do is we wanted to be thinking about our future and how to maintain trees in the future and how to best use our resources, being our public works team, to the best of our ability in 5, 10, 20 years. So we came up with the idea of a tree replacement reimbursement policy. This would be allowing residents to select whatever type of tree or whatever kind of tree they wanted. With the exception of ash or evergreen trees. They could purchase the tree, they could decide the size of the tree. Do they want it to be, you know, a very small tree, or do they want it to be a very mature tree? That's up to entirely their discretion. They get to decide that, then they come to the city. One of the important parts about planting the tree, the resident would have to plant the tree, and we are requesting that they do not plant it on the city's boulevard. So we are moving the trees from the boulevard into the resident's yard. And this is to remove that responsibility from our public works team in the future of cutting down all of these trees again. If there's another disease that strikes, of trimming it, they have to trim the trees on the boulevard so they don't hit our snow plows. So this is really trying to be proactive in the future and take that responsibility away from Public Works and put it on the resident, the owner. They would purchase, they would plant the tree, we would mark their boulevard for them, that's part of the go for one calling before they dig, they have to call so they don't hurt utilities. We would also mark their boulevard at that time. Once the tree has been planted, they can take a photo of the planted tree as well as provide a receipt for the purchased tree, submit it to the city, and we will reimburse them up to $100. This money is currently coming from our CIP, and we have $1,000 in the next year set aside for tree replacements. So really, we're looking at, in the first year, really a 10 tree replacement. If we wanna go forward with this, we can certainly look at increasing that budget. But for this first year, this will be really a 10 tree replacement program to gauge interest and figure out what the process works or if there needs to be tweaks made.
Why don't we cut it to 50 and make it 20 trees?
We could do that, we are trying, I mean, the resident still has to purchase it, to move it, to plant it. But we can certainly decrease it, as just a research point, the city of Chanhassen has $75 per tree. 100 just seemed like a nice round number, you can get a pretty decent tree for that. But I mean, if council would like to make the recommendation to lower that amount, we can certainly do that. If there are any other specifications in the policy council would like to see, we can certainly put that in there as well.
Why were evergreens excluded?
So evergreens are excluded because this policy is for street facing yards, so either a front yard or a side yard that's a street. Our concern about evergreens is that they get very large and they cut off sight lines for cars. So it's very easy for them to become more of a safety concern than any other tree.
Did you
If
talk
you
to
have a
an arbor?
backyard you wanna plant an evergreen in, super excited for you to plant it in your backyard.
Okay.
Just
Did
not a street facing yard.
Were there any other trees that were deemed not good fits for subsidizing?
Not at this time, when I spoke with Public Works, they were okay, they thought, you know, people would probably do their due diligence in purchasing a tree and asking the nursery about like. What is the hardiness zone for this area, or the 4B hardiness zone? So they thought people would make kind of an educated decision, especially if they have to front the money for a tree. They talk to the nursery to wanna make sure that their tree will survive. If this is something council would like to see more specific, that we dictate specific types of trees that they can approve, we can certainly add that in. But we were trying to give people the freedom to pick the tree that they wanted. Again, part of that ownership process of the tree.
Yeah, I don't want to take choices away from people, but maybe we could put in a footnote or something where that people should just take an extra check on, make sure the trees are suited for the soils. For example, pin oaks are not good in these soils. They can't chelate enough iron. They can't get enough iron out of the soil, and that's why they turn yellow. And that's generally the same story for sugar maples. And that's just two that I'm aware of.
I mean, we can certainly add in tree selection, like please work with your local nursery to make sure you're picking a good tree for your yard and for that type of thing. We can certainly add that type of detail in there.
Yeah, and it's
Like
just
an
because
education campaign.
yeah, they don't survive is the reason why.
Okay. Any other comments?
I would probably like to see it move down to $50 a tree too,
Okay.
I think. Especially for the first year, let's go for volume. And if we're not getting buy-in, you guys can deal with that later.
Yeah, that's a good,
I can make that change, that's not a problem.
might get 20 reimbursements out there.
Yeah. The rest of it, are you all okay with?
Yep.
So somebody can make a motion and just amend it to $50.
We'll make a motion to approve the tree replacement reimbursement policy. But amending the $100 reimbursement down to 50 so we can meet more residents'
Great.
needs.
Second.
Motion's been made by Ever, seconded by Patterson to approve the City of Olivia tree replacement reimbursement policy amended to reflect the $50 reimbursement. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Hopefully this goes a
Thank
long
you.
ways to helping encourage our neighbors to replant those trees that we unfortunately had to take out. Okay, now we're down to committee reports already. Only report we have on the docket here is the Bold Community Pool Report.
It's in the packet. I don't have a summary of it on this one, to be honest. I'm having problems with my email again. so
Okay,
We'll work on it.
We have started posting the pool schedule to our calendar on the new city website. It's its own tab on the homepage, so people who wanna literally dive into the pool, you can check the hours online.
Whoa.
Isn't that a fun plan?
any other committee reports?
Park board did meet last week, main discussion was fencing at the, church park. Craig's gonna get us some better breakdown of numbers before we make any recommendations.
The fencing on the softball fields is
Softball field
tough.
fencing, yeah,
All right,
especially the backstops and the infields.
okay,
I did see the fencing around the pickleball court.
yeah,
It looks good.
that's a sharp spot. Okay. Notices in communications. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Yeah, so this Saturday, October 12th, there is trunk or treat prior to the outdoor movie night at Dirk's Park. Where we will be showing Hocus Pocus. Food trucks will be out starting at 5 o'clock. We're still looking for community members to pull up their car or golf cart. To hand out candy to kids or other treats if you don't wanna hand out candy. To kids prior to the movie, and we're just excited and crossing our fingers for good weather Saturday night.
It will be.
Yes, chief.
Is the fire department doing the rides that night as well?
They are not, they have a conflict that evening,
Okay,
so,
we talked about that earlier.
yeah.
Maybe you could give the rides in the back of squad cars.
Maybe, yeah.
You could corner that market, absolutely. You could corner that market that night, nobody's offering car rides, so.
All right, with no other business on the agenda, call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Patterson, seconded by Evers to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.